Yeah. So most people, let's go back to like the iPhone, like blue bubbles versus green bubbles thing. So if you're on an iPhone, you get a green bubble coming in. That's an SMS text message. And that's a standard that goes back to either the early 90s or late 80s. And it basically uses the same technology that voice calls work on. So it doesn't use the internet. And those are extremely insecure. They're out in the open. They live on cell towers for, again, I'm not recalling the exact technical details right now. You could look this up, but they're not encrypted at all and they're very insecure is the end of the story. So by using something like iMessage, WhatsApp, or Facebook Messenger, you add a lot of security because those messages are being sent over the internet and they're encrypted. The issue you have with those is that now you're in the world of whatever company owns it, right? Like Apple says that iMessage is end-to-end encrypted, and I'm sure it is end-to-end encrypted. But I think they probably have the keys to unencrypt iMessages on their end, if they wanted to. They would never. They would say that they wouldn't do that, but to have the technical ability to do that.
Well, they have to.
Right.
And I heard somewhere, and I don't want to go too much off on a tangent here, but I did hear somewhere that someone said like the U.S. government, like the intelligence agencies, would not allow a private company to have an encryption that could not be broken or that they didn't have the keys to, because from a national security standpoint, like there would always be a case for them to need to have access to that at some point. And so there's no way they would allow a private company to have technology that they could not in some way access.
I'm sure they tried, as far as, see, so much of this is in the darkness, right? Like we don't know the conversations that take place between the government and Apple deep down. Like there's a well-publicized case with the San Bernardino shooters where famously Apple said, no, you're not going to get their data, even though they were criminals and murderers and all that. But there's other stuff, like, I don't know, like it's just with the Prism and this push notifications thing and all the Twitter files thing, it's hard for me to put any real trust. And again, it's a sliding scale, security versus convenience, right? If I'm talking to my friends to go hang out somewhere, yeah, it's totally fine. And it works really well. And memojis and reaction GIFs and all that stuff is awesome.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. But to kind of go down deeper into like this more secure messaging options, Signal is great because it's also end-to-end encrypted, and the organization behind it is a nonprofit, number one, and number two, they exist for privacy. That's their reason they're there. So they have a lot to lose if there was a scandal.
Is Signal open source?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that like kind of gold standard thing about you can see if there was a backdoor potentially.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. The issue with Signal is that Signal does not hide metadata. So if we're communicating on Signal, Signal knows our phone numbers, right? And that's actually public information on the Signal network. So it's known that me and you are having a conversation. It's just not known
what it's about.
Yeah, what it's about.
Kind of like a blockchain, right?
Yeah, sure.
Know that
sort of
these
pseudonymous.
two addresses they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
But these days, and you talked about this too, like your phone number is as good as your social security number.
Yes.
Because it's linked to everything.
Yeah. I mean, when was the last time you used your phone for like verification of some service? Like
so many times, like every two-factor authentication sends me a text.
Yep.
Pretty much everywhere.
And how long have you had your phone number?
Since I was 14.
Yeah, right. I've had mine for 15 years.
Yeah.
Because it's a pain in the ass to change your phone number. No one wants to deal with that.
Yeah.
And especially since it's so portable, it's so easy to move around. So yeah, your phone number is like basically your identity these days.
For sure.
Yeah. So going down even one level deeper than Signal, where metadata is not easily accessible, there's a tool called Session, another one called Adamant, and they're blockchain-based messengers. With Adamant in particular, there's a particular coin, like a crypto coin, that you buy, and it ends up costing like a few hundredths of a cent to send a message. But that's how it pays for itself.
That's cool.
Yeah. And the cool thing about those two things is that there is no metadata available. It's completely obscure.
I'm really curious
awesome.
what blockchain it's on.
Me too.
You don't know?
I know the Adamant one is something called Adamant. It's special
it's
for
its own.
that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And with Session, I'm not sure, again, much about the blockchain aspect of it. But if you go to their site, if you look them up, you can just they've got some white papers, I'm sure, for anyone who's interested in delving into
The
it.
real nerd stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or another way to look at it, like if you really have a high risk conversation that you need to have, those are the tools to look at because they offer the most at the cost of the most convenience.
Yeah. So you would say like for browser stuff, even phone or desktop, like Brave's pretty solid.
I like Brave.
That's what I use. So
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Brave. They do good work. These days, I prefer Firefox browsers. Not necessarily for a privacy standpoint, because I think Brave offers. Brave is really competitive in terms of the privacy features it offers. But Google has a really large market share. Actually, Google Chrome has a really large market share over the internet. I think they're like 70 or 80% of all browsers, something in that range. And recently, Google was in the news because they were trying to push a technology where the browser would validate websites. So in order for, and I might not get these details entirely right, but it was something like a version of DRM, digital rights management, that a website had to implement or apply, or your browser wouldn't show you the page.
Oh.
And that was coming top down from Google. So Mozilla, I think it was called Web Integrity Protection or something like that. Mozilla spoke out against it, and they're kind of like the bulwark against that happening, because 20% of the browser market is still a pretty big chunk.
Sure.
But you can see what would happen if it get to like 95, 98%. Then a website could conceivably say, we only support Chrome browsers.
Wow.
And then there's a whole nother level of censorship and that we'd have to worry about.